Okay, so welcome again, and we're carrying on with our topic on self-talk. And the more I delve into it, the more I realize how pervasive and powerfully controlling it is of our lives. And the more I realize that we really need to do our work around getting to know those voices and getting to work with the voices, because they control so much of who we are and how we behave. And we think that's me, and we don't realize that that's not actually me. And the self-talk tends to be negative, and it tends to be the connection between the false self and the outside world. And so we need to begin to understand that false sounds like quite a heavy word, but it's not the true person we are. It might have inklings of it, glimmerings of it, but we're far more... how can I say? We're far more of a unique and beautiful person in the true self. The true self has had to sort of deny itself and comply with an outside world that has been very harsh in forming us, because it's formed us by some external generalization. It's almost like formed us with the social lowest common denominator. Do this, be in the queue, stand your line, don't speak out of turn. It's forced us to conform. And any of us, those of us who are reactive or who try to not conform, you realize how quickly you get sidelined or how quickly you get disconnected. So the pressure to conform is enormous. And the rewards are great, because we get stroked, we get included, we get rewarded, albeit very thinly, because the world promises us everything but gives us very, very little. We live on the breadline in the false self, because there's always something else we need. There's always something else we need to prove and to find and to get and to avoid. And you watch how people slowly in their lives diminish, because we get less than we need. And life is a slow diminishment when we live out of the false self. Whereas with God, it's an increase, because He's wanting to actually develop us and deepen us and grow us. So I wanted to look a little bit more at some of our self-talk. We started last week on it, and just some of the things we tell ourselves, and some of the things that are going on in our head. It's like voices in our head that speak to us. Some of them we've learned to say to ourselves. You drop something, you say, "Oh, I'm so stupid." Things like that. Or they might be things your parents said to you. How many times must I tell you? ... And you say to yourself, I'll never learn. Or it might have been school teachers who also said things that hurt, and it's a serious offence, I think, when an adult says to a child something that stings, and they say it because they want to help the behaviour of the child, but actually they're doing enormous damage, because it gets into the inner self, and it sits there and it picks away, and people who have abysmal low self-esteem, all they can say is, "I'm no good, I can't manage, I'm not good enough, nobody loves me," and it feeds all sorts of obsessive compulsive behavior. I remember counseling an anorexic girl. She was thinner than a stick, and she says, "I'm too fat." I said, "But you're not." She says, No, you don't know, I'm too fat. I mean, her skin was hanging off her bones like a little t-shirt. It was like horrific. But it so takes over your subconscious thinking that you can't actually see beyond it, and you believe it. And because it's been there for so long, it actually it impresses itself on us, and we identify with the voice, and we take it on as our own. That's who I am. So it's a very powerful undercurrent, because it sits underneath and it chirps away at all our behavior. It's always happening. Some of it we can hear, some of it has become silent, but it's operating just the same, because it's so well known that it actually you don't hear it anymore. But that's how you live, that's how you respond. Somebody says something, and immediately you tighten up. You feel guilty. Oh, what did I do wrong? I must have dropped something or done something. So your body responds to the subconscious voice. It's not even conscious anymore. But you see by the action what's happening. People who get angry, I don't know why I did it. Well, you know very well why you did it. The voice said, she's cheeking you, give her a clap. So he gives her a clap, and then you're surprised. But it's so immediate and so quick that he doesn't, between the trigger and the response, there's no time. It's almost instantaneous. And so we've lost control of the point of choice. And our behavior becomes reactive and compulsive in that sense. We are under compulsion to something. We've lost our choice in that area. And so we're responding automatically. We're responding mechanically and often destructively. Because the false self, in trying to justify itself and trying to maintain its position, is always on the defensive. It's always on the negative or back foot. Very, very seldom positive. And then, Gina, last week you mentioned having positive ones. What we tend to do then is try and put a positive one on top of a negative one. Half the books in the self-help section, the exclusive books, say, the power of positive thinking. Tell yourself you're fine. Tell yourself you're going to make it. Tell yourself you can win. Tell yourself feeding yourself with positive comments. If you haven't dealt with the negative comments, it's just putting a layer on top of the negative comments. And what you do is you try and pressure them into submission, but they don't go away. So you can manage for a while, but then you need more stronger medicine to keep them down. But then you fail one day and they come back and they say, you see, you're a joke. They got you. So it doesn't help to just overlay negative self-talk with positive self-talk. You have to come to terms with the self-talk and blow its assumptions. Self-talk is based on assumptions that are not relevant, are not true. They're often lies. They're often a distorted point of view. Nobody loves me. Well, is it true? Probably not. I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too ugly, I haven't got my makeup on, I shouldn't. I mean, it goes on and on. So many things. And yet we are cowed by them. Because we don't have a defense against them. They tell us who we are. We aren't aware that it's even happening. We just think, well, that's how I do it. Well, that's how I talk. That's how I think. That's how I am with people. These are the friends I choose. And we choose people, we choose mentors, we choose counselors who fit in with the things we disbelieve. We don't choose people who tell us we're wrong. We choose people who agree with us. So we tend to perpetuate the dysfunction by the counselors we get. As the Bible says, our ears are itched to hear what we want to hear. And we want to hear that the voices are right because they're there. And so we almost have to comply with them. To start that inner fight against them is very hard. So we either drown them or we get compliance. And so we don't actually deal with them. But they all come out of wounded areas. And they were formulated out of wounds. And so they keep us stuck in the wounds. And it's very hard to actually break free unless we actually are aware of them and are starting to move into them and work with them. And it's a science. It's like if you want to learn a skill, you have to plan it, you have to organize it, you have to work into it, you have to be consistent with it. It's not just like, oh, we've got an hour now to talk about it and then we've done it. It needs passion. It needs commitment. And like I was saying earlier, we're all slowly dying. I know it's hard to hear, but we are all slowly dying. Not just that we're aging, but within we're slowly becoming harder and more unresponsive to reality. Because we're not dealing with the stuff that's actually stealing reality from us. So unless we're passionate about life, unless we actually put our energy into it, unless we are doing something to increase the pace, there's no standing still. There's no stasis. There's no plateau. We're either going down or we're going up. If we're fighting it, if we're working with it, and it's not only a sort of gruesome, miserable, bitter fight. It's also having the desire to be more alive and to be more in touch and to be more free in ourselves, to be out of this prison that we find ourselves in, and to begin to live out of a more deep self where we are actually more in touch with life and are able to celebrate and to enjoy and to dance and to truly weep and to truly laugh. Because from the false self, it's all plastic. It's unreal. We can't properly feel. We can't properly cry. We can't properly laugh. We need drinks to make us celebrate. We need to choose our friends because the wrong friends make us sour. So, life is very contrived in the false self. The true self has got a totally different feel about it. And there's something in us that nags us and says, there's more to life. There's more to life. Go and sit in a party and watch everybody sort of have to have 5 drinks to start being happy. And you think, is this the best we can do to celebrate? Is this what life is really about? And you realize, no, there's something deeper. Not to say that having a drink or 5 drinks is bad, but that's not the way to find fulfillment or rejoicing or camaraderie. But within, what are the voices within us that drive us, that tell us we can or can't, we must or mustn't, we should or shouldn't? And they're distorted. Just compare those voices with somebody else, and you can see very quickly that your behaviors aren't the same, or your assumptions aren't the same in the same context. And if you can't hear the voices, just how easily we take offense. When somebody says something and we become offended, write on your piece of paper, why do you take offense? I'm asking you to write. Just think for a moment. As somebody says something and it makes you feel offended, what was the voice inside? You hear what I'm saying? Far more offense is taken than is ever meant or given. Far more negativity is absorbed than is ever dished out. So we tend to take offense when we want to shut off, when we want to distance ourselves. I'm not going to talk to her again. She said this and this about me. She might not have even realized she was saying it. Or I really need to get close to that guy because he's very popular. Maybe I'll feel a bit better when I'm close to him. So these voices are carrying on all the time.